The room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the street lights outside, seeping through the blinds. The heat wrapped around us like a heavy, sultry blanket, clinging to every inch of our skin. Max leaned over me, his eyes dark and unreadable, his lips brushing mine with a hunger I hadn't felt in years. The sweat on his forehead mirrored my own, and as our bodies pressed together, every thought, every plan I had meticulously crafted faded into the background. For a moment it was just us, raw, reckless, and electric. Max's hands moved over my skin with an urgency that matched the pounding of my heart. His touch was searing, his fingertips tracing paths of fire along my arms, down my back, and across my hips. I tilted my head back, letting his lips find the curve of my neck, and I shivered as he pulled me closer, our bodies melting into one. The heat of the room seemed to rise with every breath we shared, our movements both frantic and deliberate, as though we were trying to capture something fleeting and eternal all at once. He whispered my name, his voice rough and low, as his lips claimed mine again. My fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, refusing to let go. The world outside dissolved. No plans, no schemes, no husbands, no consequences. Just the feel of him, solid and real, grounding me in the moment. His body moved against mine, every touch igniting sparks that spread like wildfire. I arced into him, the sheets twisting beneath us as we gave ourselves over to the heat and desire that neither of us could resist. As we reached the crescendo, time seemed to stop, our breaths mingling in the sultry air. His grip on me tightened, his strength grounding me even as we tittered on the edge of abandon. And when it was over, we collapsed there, our bodies slick with sweat and exhaustion, our hearts pounding in unison. I lay there, his arms around me, and for the briefest of moments, I allowed myself to forget the web I was spinning, to pretend that this was enough. But deep down, I knew it would never be. But I never lost sight of my goal. Even in the throes of passion, I never do. It all started a month ago. I was sipping my usual gin and tonic at the seaside tavern, pretending to be engrossed in the conversation around me when I saw him for the first time. Max Harper, a local lawyer, charming but with a dangerous edge. His reputation preceded him, a man with a penchant for bending the rules and a weakness for women who knew how to play the game. I knew I had to have him. He didn't notice me at first. I waited, letting him catch glimpses of me from across the room. I let my laughter carry over the hum of the bar, flashing a coy smile when I finally caught his eye. When he walked over, drink in hand, I could see the intrigue burning in his gaze. Men like Max are easy to read. We talked about nothing and everything, the heat in the room thickening between us. By the time we left the bar, it was clear that neither of us was going home alone. That night, in his small, sparsely decorated apartment, I saw the fire in him, the recklessness that made him perfect for what I needed. Over the next few weeks, we became inseparable. The affair wasn't just lust, It was a carefully orchestrated move on my part. My husband, Richard Walker, was a cruel man, obsessed with his wealth and power. I had married him for the comfort and security, but his control suffocated me. I longed to be free, to live without his shadow looming over me. Max was my ticket out. I planted the idea slowly, whispering half-truths in Max's ear during stolen moments in bed. I wish I could leave him, I'd murmur, my voice heavy with fake despair. But he'd never let me go. He'd destroy me. Max hated Richard without even meeting him. I made sure of that. I painted my husband as a monster, and Max, with his self-righteous streak, was eager to play the hero. One sweltering night, after another round of lovemaking in Max's dimly lit bedroom, I brought up the plan. My body was draped over his, my fingers tracing lazy patterns on his chest. He has a will, I said softly, as though the idea had just occurred to me. If anything happens to him, everything comes to me. Max stiffened beneath me. What are you saying, Lydia? I sat up, letting the sheet fall from my shoulders. I knew the effect my bare skin had on him. I'm saying we could be together, Max. No more hiding, no more sneaking around. We could finally be free. The plan was simple on the surface. Max would take care of Richard during one of his late-night business trips, and I would provide the alibi. Everything seemed airtight. But as we executed it, cracks began to show. Richard's death was ruled an accident, a tragic fall in his hotel room. The police bought it, and I was free. Free to be with Max, free to live the life I had always dreamed of. But freedom isn't as simple as it seems. A week later, as I lounged by the pool of my now empty estate, sipping champagne, Max arrived unannounced. He was jittery, his face pale. They're asking questions, he said, pacing the length of the patio. The cops, they're digging into his finances, his connections. I feigned concern, reaching for his hand. Max, calm down, we've covered our tracks. But I knew better. I'd spent months planning this, anticipating every possible scenario. What I hadn't anticipated was Max's guilt. Our final night together was the culmination of all my work. We made love one last time, his desperation evident in every kiss, every touch. Max's desperation was palpable as he pulled me to him, his hands trembling slightly as they roamed my body. His kisses were fierce, almost frantic, as though he was trying to memorize the taste of me, the feel of me, before it all slipped away. I responded in kind, matching his fervor with my own, my fingers digging into his shoulders as I pulled him closer. The tension in the air crackled like a live wire, and the weight of what was coming only heightened the urgency of our movement. I let him take control, his hands guiding me, his body pressing mine against the soft mattress as he murmured my name against my skin. His touch was raw, filled with both love and something darker, an unspoken fear of what he sensed but couldn't name. I whispered reassurances, soft lies meant to soothe him, my hands stroking his back as his lips claimed mine again and again. In that moment, I let myself believe the lie too, that this was real, that it was forever. When it was over, we lay tangled together, his head resting against my chest as our breathing slowed. He held me like a man clinging to a lifeline, his arms tightening around me even as sleep threatened to overtake him. I stroked his hair softly, pressing a kiss to his forehead, and whispered, "I'm here." But as I watched him drift into slumber, the truth weighed heavy in my chest. This wasn't the beginning of something new. It was the end, for him at least. And as his breathing evened out, I slipped from his arms, my resolve as sharp and unyielding as ever. When he fell asleep, I slipped the forged document into his car. They pointed to his financial troubles, his need for Richard's wealth. The next morning, the police knocked on my door. "We need to talk about Max Harper," they said. I smiled faintly, faint shock as they explained their suspicions. Max was arrested within the hour, and I was free again, this time truly free. Now, as I sit here recounting my story, I realize people will never understand. They'll call me cold, manipulative, a murderer, but they don't know what it's like to live a life where every move is dictated by someone else. In the end, Max was just a pawn in my game. And as the heat of the summer fades, I'm left with everything I ever wanted, and no regrets.